The world is a big place. It's also full of big people. Well, people with big wallets and ostentatious lifestyles. Hi, my name is Charles Maxwell Scott the 15th, and this is Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. For our Season 4 finale, we're going to explore the untold story of the son of a business tycoon. A man with numerous fishing fleets, multiple mansions, and an inheritance of millions of dollars. To your surprise, he's also a fisherman. A self-driven, diligent, passionate fisherman. A millionaire fisherman? Yes, he is the Harvey Cheyenne. Mr. Harvey has invited us to speak with him about his wealth and history at his mansion. It was very generous of him, and now we will actually get to see what he has in store. We will see his unique history and what it actually is. So, the surface level of what we know about Harvey is that he used to be the spoiled child of a millionaire. That was until he fell off of a boat and into the ocean. He was found by another ship. He stayed there for months and his character changed drastically. As of what we know now, he is a hardworking, righteous gentleman. Wow, look at this. Look at this fancy land. The rich and famous? Oh yeah, certainly. The story is about the wealthy Mr. Harvey right now. His fans and the people that know him are quite drastically different. Some look up to him as an inspiration, as someone who's a role model for his character and everything. While others think of him as still a snobby, spoiled man supported by his father's inheritance. Let's find the truth about Mr. Harvey.
Hey Charles,
Hey,
how are you?
Harvey, how are you doing?
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem, of course.
Okay,
Welcome
thank
to my
you so
humble
much.
abode.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Here, let me just take that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course,
Okay,
So,
thank you
it's a
so
nice
much.
package. Here, sit down.
Thank you. So, just tell me everything.
So you see, it all started in that year in May, and I was on this fancy luxury liner with my mother, right? So you see, back then I wasn't quite who I am today, so kind of embarrassing. I was a snobby little boy, and so I went about bragging on that ship about how I could never get sick. Unlike my mother, who was like throwing up all over the place that time. So I did that, and then this gentleman, this German gentleman, right? He comes up to me and offers me a cigar, and I was like, sure, what the heck? And I tried it, and let's just say it was a really strong cigar. You know, one puff of that, and I was on the side of the ship trying not to throw up. And then there's this huge wave that crashed in, and this kind of rocked the ship, and I just flew right over. And next thing I knew, I was in the water.
Fortunately, however, as we've heard before, another ship spotted you and brought you aboard. Is that right?
So yeah, the fishing schooner we're here did save me, both literally and like figuratively. So literally speaking, yeah, I was drowning. They pulled me out. They did save me from death, but they also saved my ego, right? So I didn't realize it then, but my ego was like slowly chipping away at my righteousness. It was killing me slowly, but I got to this like point of realization, and I couldn't have done it without being on that boat.
Yeah, we've heard. But how did life on the schooner, We're Here, change you? What was your experience and how did you change your way of life?
Yeah, well, it was a period of many months, but I'll keep it short. So I changed slowly. Originally, when I got on the boat that we were here, I was a pretty snobby kid, you know. I demanded a bunch of stuff, didn't get what I wanted, stuff like that. But once I started working on the boat, I guess, like me completing something, it brought to me like some satisfaction, personal satisfaction. The other crew members started to recognize me for what I did. You know, I was no longer the son of some railroad tycoon So I guess that really motivated me to change who I was.
As we've seen, Harvey became, as he mentioned in the interview, what was like a new person, a new character with a new personality and outlook on life. Many people regard this change as too good to be true, and something that must have been endowed by the heavens. And it seems like this is very true, this is valid, because how could a person possibly change that much, essentially becoming a different person, a new person, even despite planting him in a new environment that involves hard work and vigor. Thus, fans of Harvey suggest that, in fact, him falling off the boat, like he mentioned, into the ocean was actually a form of baptism. They take this idea from How to Read Literature Like a Professor, which Thomas C. Foster, the author, indicates that drowning represents baptism. And when he re-emerges from the water, he is reborn and shows some form of character growth. Intriguing? Oh yes, certainly intriguing. Even holy. His life seems to have been molded by the hands of God to become this entirely new person. So we've just received an address from Mr. Harvey. This is of one of his best friends, one of the people who have changed his life on the schooner. He said this was the most influential person on his life, and now they have developed an unbreakable friendship. This person said Harvey saved Harvey. He helped transform Harvey into the man that he is today. At the same time, Harvey's coincidental landing on the We're Here schooner was a godsend to this person. We're about to go meet Dan Troop. He was the boy who greeted Harvey with joy on the schooner, since at the time, Dan was the only boy on the fishing schooner. We've made it. But apparently, the address that Harvey gave us was actually of Harvey's shed. So basically, Dan Troop lives in Harvey's shed. Let's take a look. Oh my God, nice to meet you. Are you Dan Troop?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for having me. Let's get right into it. What happened? How did it all go down?
Well, the strangest thing that happened to me was to see little Harvey fall off the boat. The waters were as calm as could be. Manuel was the first to spot him. That's how he landed on the We're Here, the loveliest fishing schooner to ever exist. After I dried him up, I brought him down to the schooner lower cabin. I warmed him up with a cup of, in my opinion, world-famous coffee. Harvey ridiculously asked, "Isn't there milk?" Of course, I, slightly offended, lightly responded, "There ain't likely to be about mid-September. Tain't bad coffee, I made it." I always like to take credit in being the biggest helper to Harvey's transition onto the boat. I showed him all the ropes. I may have been the youngest on board, but I sure helped him be the greatest.
So, what was your first impression of him?
Of Harvey? Oh boy, where do I begin? Well, let's just say that Harvey was a bit different from who he is now. I didn't have a strong opinion towards him, like my father, Captain Disco Troop, but I did find it odd that Harvey has such a poor attitude. Like, can you believe it? He even suggested that my father must have stolen the money in his pocket. That's even after my father offered him a $10 wage. My father? Please, he is the most honest captain there is. I think I must have changed his mind, or maybe it was a punch he got from my father. But I could see that Harvey was more to what he appeared. He even apologized to my father.
So I heard Harvey is really rich, but did you believe in the extent of wealth he claimed he had before?
Well, I wasn't too sure at first, but after he kept going on and on about his luxuries, I mean, he just wouldn't stop talking about it. I started to believe him, since there was no way someone could make up something like that. But of course, I had to believe him. He had hounded himself by the most terrible oath known to boyhood. And the fact that he sat there still alive meant that every word he was saying was the absolute truth.
Very interesting. But how did your father, Disco, feel about this?
Well, as I said earlier, when Harvey was first on the boat, he felt superior to everybody else. And he even tried to buy out my father to take him back to New York. Of course, this offended my father, who runs a tight ship, so he socked him in the face.
It's almost as if Harvey being thrown overboard served as a major turning point for him. Re-emerging from the water was a baptism, per se, where he lost his sins, or in this case, his connection to his wealth, which marked the start of him building his humility.
Yeah, I guess you could put it that way, although the effect was kind of delayed. But once the reality set in for him, he really surprised my father and even me. Harvey actually went and apologized to him and took up his $10 a month job offer.
We wanted to see how Harvey's other crewmates felt about him, so we decided to reach out to Long Jack, then a fellow fisherman of Harvey.
Hello, hey, how you doing?
Long Jack?
Yes, it's Long Jack. Come on.
Jack, thank you very much.
Right here.
Alright, so I heard from other members of your crew that Harvey initially acted like a spoiled kid when he was brought onto the We're Here. But he humbled down afterwards. How did your interactions fare with him?
Oh, Harvey, he was an interesting kid. Let's see, if I do remember correctly, I was the one that ended up teaching him how to be a man. Before, the boy had no idea how to do anything on the ship. So I showed him the ropes, both figuratively and literally. I started from the basics, menial things like mopping the decks and cleaning the dories. But the boy, despite never working hard in his life, learned quickly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was surprised too. He started to grow on me, and I took him under my wing. I started teaching him how to tie various knots and the names of different types of ropes and equipment.
Oh, how did he learn these quickly, too?
I mean, he didn't have a choice. If he got it wrong, I would whip him with the end of a long rope. But no, Harvey was a smart little kid. He had the book smarts, very adept in nautical mathematics, and although he had no life experience, he was able to apply himself and adapt quickly to his surroundings with his work ethic. So he gained the crew's respect quickly.
Do you think that maybe his motivation was to be recognized for his work and not his wealth?
Most definitely. Whenever he did something, he had a gleam in his eyes once he accomplished it. I believe that he felt he was creating a name for himself, rather than just being the son of a railroad tycoon. As a crew, that's what made us open up to him. We even ate suppers together, and often would share our pasts with each other. Manuel, Disco, Pennsylvania, the cook, Harvey, and I got to know one another during these,
Communions?
Exactly. Once we opened up to each other, we almost did become a small family. We even had a couple of fun moments together.
So there's a common theme here. We have often seen in literature that these meal scenes are a form of communion where people will come together and learn deeper truths about each other. Was this the case for Harvey's story and your communion?
Yep, that was in fact the case. Not only was it a place when we shared our stories and characters, we shared food, fish we caught with sweat and tears. This was the essence of our social quality and the common human condition. So there's this one time where there was a French brig nearby, so Harvey and I went over to buy some tobacco, And Harvey, who, as you know, was well educated, knew French, bonjour. So he tried to talk to the French sailors. However, they couldn't understand his schoolboy French, but understood my poor quality sign language perfectly. You should have seen the look on his face. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But I know that Harvey's experience with the French boat wasn't all lighthearted. So this is based off what I heard, but I heard that Dan and Harvey went back to the French boat and bought a knife that belonged to a deceased French sailor. So apparently, once the two went back to fishing on our boat, they pulled up, get this, a dead French sailor. Yeah, super weird. I guess the sailor wanted to be reconnected with his knife, so they cut him loose and threw him and his knife back into the sea.
Hi.
Can't you see I'm working?
I'm sorry to bother you right now, but you're Disco Troop, right?
Yeah, what's it to you?
So it must have been odd to have some random boy just enter your crew. And I've heard from the others about their interaction with Harvey. But as captain of the ship, how did you feel about Harvey's presence?
At first I was a bit taken aback. Dan and Harvey are about the same age, but Harvey wasn't nearly as handy on the schooners as my own boy Dan. However, I will have to say Harvey is full of surprises. That kid's a wild card. See, he didn't grow up on fishing boats and around fishermen like Dan, but he is shockingly fantastic at using the sextant. Guess those expensive math lessons really paid off.
Wow, sounds like you were impressed.
Why, of course. With that surprise, I just felt that I had to teach him about navigation.
So I know an important element of being a captain of a ship is to make sure the crew is effectively working together as a team. So how did Harvey contribute, or not contribute, to the crew's atmosphere?
Well, I knew Harvey had slowly been able to integrate himself with the rest of the crew. But what really sold me was his helpfulness in early September. Every year, the We're Here fishing crew competes with the rest of those fishing fleets to see which crew can fill their vessel with cod and hell but the fastest. Blah!
Oh, so it's a pretty big deal then.
For sure. The winner is honored by the rest of the fleet. The winner is honored by the rest of the fleet and gets to claim the highest price for the first cargo into port. Not to brag or anything, but we were the reigning champions for the past 4 years, and with Harvey on board, we had hoped to win again. And guess what? With Harvey's help, we won again.
It is in fact amazing what stacks of Benjamin Franklins can do for you. This millionaire lifestyle, the lifestyle of the rich and famous, is the driver of change in the world. As Carl Sandburg once put it, money is power, freedom, cushion, the root of all evil, and the sum of all blessings. However, money can also lead to the destruction of oneself. As we have seen with Harvey's story and many previous episodes, there's always a constant theme of conceit versus humility. Money will make one feel like the almighty, powerful beyond control. This feeds onto conceit and pride that harvested itself within Harvey when he was a spoiled young boy always supported by his mother. However, after falling off the liner and into a fishing schooner, Harvey learns the ropes and technical aspects of fishing, but he also gains insight to humility. He transformed into someone who boasted less about his wealth, and during his time on the schooner, at one point, he forgot about his wealth and never brought it up. He seemed to acclimate himself well into the environment. The theme of conceit versus humility is certainly a prominent one. As we have seen, this also leads to show the importance of teamwork and sympathy, and how the environment can play an enormous factor to shaping individuals as human beings. Teamwork, sympathy, and nature versus nurture is a significant part of the human condition. Harvey's story best exemplifies these themes. By working together on the fleet and surrounding himself with crew members who were relentlessly hardworking and diligent, Harvey transformed from a snobbish teenager into an experienced, diligent young man. This led him to build greater sympathy, which developed into one of his characteristics that is greatly admired by his fans today. For Harvey, not only is he a millionaire, but he's also well respected and receives much praise for his work. These themes of the importance of teamwork, sympathy, and the environment is an essence of Harvey's story, and is something that he wants to share with the world. So this right here can be considered the very center of Harvey's existence. Without the schooner, We're Here, Harvey would not be here today, successful and ambitious. He would likely be a pile of calcium on the seafloor. Wow, look at this thing. These are the remnants of the We're Here, what is left after many years. So this ship here is the symbol, the quintessence of social equality, hard work, and morality. What more better defines these aspects of the human condition? The We're Here was a place where people were treated equally under the one condition that if you were hardworking and contributed to the group efforts, you were valued. They lived under a common morality, and the idea of social classes never thrived in these conditions. These ideas of social equality, hard work, and common morality were commonplace in Harvey's story. They essentially became recurring symbols that became a part of Harvey's values. Living on the We're Here, surrounded by people who cared and who were passionate about what they did, Harvey began to incorporate these values into his own mindset, implementing them into his daily life and finding that they were becoming commonplace. Harvey's newly founded civility towards his crewmates began to repeat itself every day, and eventually manifested itself into his new morality. Thanks to the ship right here, the remnants of the ship right here, Harvey is not like the spoiled, conceited brats that we normally see on our show.